All right, 1 second here, just setting up. All right. All right, my name is Andrew Mocht. I am a dialogue editor, currently working on an audiobook series about 56 minutes long. The dialogue that we are working on was recorded inside of an apartment. The characters for this series is actually outdoors, running in a desert. So one of the big issues of the recordings that I'm facing with these is the reverberation of the location where they recorded. They used no sort of treatment in order to filter against the natural sound of the room that they chose to record in. So I'm working on cleaning up the dialogue, the reverberation. There's a lot of lip smacks. There's some recording issues, such as recorded at 48/16-bit. Making it a little harder to process these tracks just because of the lower resolution. And there's various mechanical noise that was in here, mouth noise, and then other miscellaneous things I've been finding within the dialogue. But I've been going through it, trying to clean up everything the best I can. Reason for my streaming just kind of helps me focus a bit on the work I'm doing. I also do like to share and show people kind of various ways of working on a project. So give me 1 sec here. All right, I'm back. I got a phone call from the wife and had to grab that real quick. Anyways, continuing with the live stream here. What I was saying is this project has quite a few bumps and bruises in it, but I'm able to clean up a good chunk of it. So let's just take a listen to this clip here.
Perhaps later. I think I'll run down into the forest there and refresh myself.
So within this clip, we got a few things, a lot of mouth noise, and the reverberation that we need to get rid of to help solidify the location that they are in. We want to help make it sound drier so I can reprocess it with a different tone. I got a few IR impulse responses that I can help make it more sound like the recordings in the desert. So let's go ahead on my secondary monitor here. I actually do have various modules of Isotope open. Going to start out with going to the standalone, and that's normally how I start everything. So I got Isotope RX7 Advanced. In fact, I actually have the entire post-production suite, Suite 3. Definitely considering switching over to Suite 5 just because of the current deal. For anyone that's watching, the Suite 5 is currently on sale for $100 off.
Perhaps later.
And that's on the cross grade.
Perhaps later. Later.
All right, so really need to tackle that slimy mouth noise here. I'm just using Command C, Command V, Command C, Command V, Command C, Command V. Command C, Command V, Command C, Command V.
Perhaps later. Perhaps later. Perhaps later.
Definitely already sounding quite a bit better.
Perhaps later. Perhaps later.
Plosive right at the front here. Command 5.
Perhaps later. Perhaps later.
Although that looked like it damaged the audio a little bit doing that. Let's not make it do that. So I used Command X there a few times to really hone in on that edit.
Perhaps later. Perhaps later. Perhaps later. Perhaps later. Perhaps.
Bit of miscellaneous noise there. Let's clean that up. For a big thing that I like doing, I just like sticking to the basic editing functions, cut, copy, and paste.
Perhaps later. Perhaps later. Perhaps. Perhaps.
Command 6 is a shortcut key for spectral repair. That's what I just used to clean that up. There's a breath here, or some sort of reverberation from miscellaneous noise I need to clean up. Using Command C and Command V, copy and paste, is what those shortcuts are.
Perhaps. Perhaps. Perhaps.
Just making sure I don't end up with any holes here.
Perhaps. Perhaps later. Perhaps. Perhaps.
I used Command 6 again there to attenuate the audio.
Perhaps. Perhaps later. Perhaps later. Perhaps later. I think I'll.
Command C, Command V. So I just used command 2, which is declip, or declicked it and not do anything here. So we're going to try using mouth declick. That did a better job, but didn't get rid of everything.
I think
I still got this. So what we're going to do is, again, my favorite thing is use cut, copy, and paste. Go through here. And you just got to kind of really massage these issues out. Modules don't always work. I try sticking away from modules because they can add artifacts into your audio. They do work here and there. I'm not saying they're useless. It's just a lot of the things that I've worked on require a little more precision. Cut, copy, and paste really just gives you that precision because you can select the various frequency ranges using the time frequency selection tool, which is the R key on your keyboard is a shortcut key to use that tool. T is time and F is frequency. But I use the time frequency selection tool, which allows you to select within a time range and a frequency range, and allows you to be able to select exactly what you need to process. Now, one thing I do when I use modules is I'll make a selection, and then I won't use a time selection like this and process track. I rather select the area that is my problem in the frequency range and render that then instead the entire thing, because then it's less damaging to the audio and not everything's absolutely getting processed.
I think I'll run.
So such as this, there's a click in here, make your selection, and then you can use, I can try command 2, that did nothing. Command 2 is the shortcut key to declick. I can try using mouth declick, and that got rid of it.
I think I'll.
And then the rest of that problem, the rest of that click is right there. So I'm just going to use Command C and Command V to paste right over it.
I think I'll.
And now it's gone.
Think I'll run.
Now, one thing for me, I gotten so used to being able to tell where my problems are within the histogram chart here, to the point where copy and paste works really well for me, because I can really see those issues in this, even at a lower resolution audio. And again, this audio was recorded at 16-bit, 48 kilohertz. So what we're really getting is just less amplitude to your waveforms, which kind of, if you're talking about how this histogram renders that audio, kind of compresses it, squishes it down. So if I zoom in here, I can't really get in between everything very well. As you see, it starts getting this Swiss cheese look. With higher resolutions, that will be expanded, and I'll be able to get in there and see more information in the waveform.
I think I'll run.
And also recording at higher sampler rates can help with that, but at the same time you need a microphone that also allows you to record at those higher sampler rates. That microphone has to have that frequency range that you're trying to record in.
I think I'll. think I'll run down into the forest there and
So there's a little click right there. Command C and Command V is how I got rid of that.
there and refresh myself. Refresh myself.
So this breath is very sharp. So what I like to do is use spectral repair attenuate, but I like to really lessen the amount of that.
Refresh myself.
And that always helps take away some of that sharpness. There's a few other little things in here. Just kind of spitting while he's doing that sharp. Just clean that up a little bit. Another pop right here. A little breathy air tone.
And refresh myself.
And one last one right here. And again, I'm using Command C and Command V, copy and paste in order to get through those.
Perhaps later. I think I'll run down into the forest there and refresh myself.
So now that I got rid of the miscellaneous noises that I don't like, now it's trying to de-reverb this voice to help isolate it a little farther for future processing during the mix stage. So not dialogue isolate, dialogue de-reverb. So I like using dialogue de-reverb. It sounds a lot better than just de-reverb. Different algorithm, I can't tell you why, it just sounds better to my ears. For this audiobook, I've actually already started working on it. We're at the 44-minute mark at the moment. There's 56 minutes total to this entire project. -12 has worked the entire time for me in this reduction. But to kind of explain how I came to that solution, I always render hard. Start out with, you can use the compare. I use render because I cannot do it, Command Z. And then kind of listen to what the audio does.
Perhaps later. I think I'll run down into the forest there and refresh myself.
That doesn't sound perfect. So definitely sounds like it left a lot of air, sucked the life from the audio, which is not what I want to do. So then you just start lessening the values slowly, sometimes in intervals of 6 or 3. I usually do 3. And then kind of process and hear that tonality change until my ears adjust to something I prefer. So I'm going to go back to -12 just because that's what I've been doing this entire time. So you can actually enter in the box here a specific number that you want to reach. And that's what I did. And then just render. And then I'll listen to playback.
Perhaps later. I think I'll run down into the forest there and refresh myself.
Now, so this recording wasn't done perfect. Now, I got to a point where I like where my de-reverb's at, but there are some spots that need a little more. So what I do is use spectral repair attenuate and start digging in on the tails here of all the words, the dialogue parts, to start bringing back some of it. Now, I'm not processing these tracks farther because the way de-reverb likes it. I personally don't like any de-reverb plugin. They all kind of damage the audio in a way that I don't like, adds artifacts or takes too much away, even when doing the slight adjustments. It just never sounds good. But spectral repair attenuate gives me finer control because I can use the time frequency selection tool, and then if you're over a range, it will actually fade back the audio for these kind of issues. So that's all the reverb from his voice that you're hearing there.
Later.
And to really use that kind of tool and that kind of method, I always listen to the full playback and kind of hone in on what that frequency I want removed is in order to know, hey, this is what I'm going to attenuate.
Later. Later. I think later.
Because you can do too much when you do that method. And now this actually sounds pretty good to where I want it.
Perhaps later. I think I'll run down into the forest there and refresh myself. I'll run down into the forest there and into the forest there. Into the forest there, into the forest there, into the forest there, and into the forest there, and
Command 6 is a shortcut key for spectral pair attenuate.
forest there, and forest there, and refresh. Forest there, and forest there, and refresh. Forest there. Force there and refresh. 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 Force there and
So at this point, I'm just using my ears to listen in to what I hear and what I want removed.
down into the forest there and refresh. Down into the forest there and refresh myself. Down into. I think I'll run down into the forest there and refresh myself. I think I'll run down into the forest there and refresh myself. There and refresh myself. Down into the forest there and refresh myself. Down into the forest there and refresh myself.
That sounds all right.
Forest? What forest?
I close the window.
Forest?
So she has some mouth noise at the beginning here. So here's declick. So declick didn't do a full attenuation like I would need. Mouth declick, we can try using that. That did absolutely nothing. So I undid both declick and mouth declick. And this is why I tend to go back and use cut, copy, and paste, just because I know this method gives me the quickest results. I don't have to spend much time fiddling around with the modules, trying to find a good setting, and sometimes I don't even find a setting at all that works.
Forest? 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 What forest? Forest? What forest?
So now I got rid of the majority of the noise, that miscellaneous noise, declicks, pops, various, all that stuff. I want to now work on dialogue de-reverbing the voice.
Forest? What forest? Forest? What forest?
What is a little sharp still with the reverberation.
What for?
You can hear that there. And the way to isolate a section like the way I am and being able to hear that section is make sure in the bottom left here that playback selection is being used. So you just click on that. Or you just want to use playback selection.
What forest? What forest? Forest. What forest?
That sounds good to me.
Forest. What forest?
Oatly points into the distance to the lush green forest.
That one there.
So here's a fun shortcut too, is Command Option 7. What that did is process my last setting in my EQ, or my current setting in my EQ, I should say. So I got a very tight roll off of the low end, and that's what I did to correct his voice very quickly there. I already had that preset in there. So I just used Command Option 7 in order to quickly render that out. So here's where I got some machine noise, this and this. Going to just use simple copy and paste. D-click might work for that if you wanted to use a module. Let's see. That's D-click. It did a significant amount of it for me. I could probably use that and then copy and paste the rest out.
Oatly points.
There we go. Now there is still a lot of low-end rumble in this track that we will tackle before we de-reverb. And actually we don't even need a de-reverb this voice.
Oatly points into the
They used the TLM microphone to record this guy's voice, just didn't, I don't know, the recorder that they chose did not work right for them.
points into the distance to points into Oatly points into the Oatly points into the distance to the lush green forest. To the lush green forest. To the lush green.
Some various mouth noise right there that I want to get rid of using mouth D-click.
The lush green. The lush greens. To the lush greens. To the lush.
It's also this one too.
The lush green. The lush green forest. The lush green forest. 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 Forest.
And a bit of a low end pop here.
In forest. In forest. 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 In forest. In forest.
There we go. Another fun trick here. What you can do is quickly learn your ambience match by using Command Option Shift 3, and then you can make your selection here. There we go. And let's make sure. Cool. And then you can render your last ambience match capture using Command Option 2. So and it did work. I'm going to undo that and make a larger selection here. Command Option 2, so that way hits that D-click there, or click that was there from mechanical noise. So now I kind of made a completed clip there. There's also at the tail there what I was trying to get rid of was another recording's ambience or broadband noise. So I did that again by using Command Option Shift 3 to quickly learn the ambience match, and then Command Option 2 to render that ambience match over that. And then just to show you, ambience match is right here. I'll just make a random selection here. So Command Option Shift 3, and there you go, it learned it, and then I could Command Option 2 and render it. One thing that I have when I use ambience match, and what I did there, make sure that you have this check marked, because you want to output the ambience only. Doing this will actually layer your ambience on top of what's already there. So I could do that to all this. And it just adds that noise into the track, and you know, you don't want additive noise on there, as you can see. But using this method removes everything and only outputs the ambience from the module here. So keep that in mind when you're using those shortcuts, and especially for ambience match. This is one thing that I like doing, is having that checked and outputting only the ambience match. Sometimes there is reasons why I would layer it, trying to match exactly using the plugin as it should be used is ambience match. I'm trying to match one clip to the other, and that's when I have that unchecked. But in this case, I'm trying to make this as its own standalone audio region.
Oatly points into the distance to the lush green forest.
So the next thing here, I do have a plosive that I need to get rid of here. Command 5 is for deplosive, and again, that uses your last setting that you have enabled, and we can pull up deplosive, and that's what my current setting is, and that's what I just rendered.
Oatly points into the distance.
So cool. The last thing I want to tackle in this clip is, I said there's
Oatly
rumble in here, and you can hear that there. And I'll make the selection to make it a little more clear. So I want to get rid of that. So I use spectral denoise to get rid of it, because it allows me to really hone in on my time frequency selection that I have currently. So I hit learn here, and it only renders to that selection. So now I can hit Command A to select the entire time frame of this clip, and then be careful here. I already have it kind of set to how I like it, but just use your ears when you're doing this. You can hit the preview button.
Oatly points into the distance to the lush green forest.
And then choose how much reduction you need. So that's how I normally do it, is just kind of apply as much reduction as needed by using my ears.
Oatly points into the distance to the lush green forest. Oatly points into the distance.
And there you go. So as you see there, it hit only within that learned material with the spectral denoise, and kind of took that out and cleaned it up for me and made it sound a lot more smooth here.
Oatly points into the distance to the lush green forest.
And so we can go back and hear what the original recording was before I made all these corrections.
Oatly points into the distance to the lush green forest.
So you can hear the low end, you can hear the mechanical noise pops and the mouth noise that I removed. And then let's go back to the final results.
Oatly points into the distance to the lush green forest.
And now it's all cleaned up. And all that is left to do is just send this out to the Connect plugin and render. Now I have a second monitor open, so I do have the modules and Audio Suite plugins on to the right side of my screen that you guys currently aren't viewing. Just to show you, here it is. And you can see the dramatic difference of the changes I made visually on the waveform here. One thing I was asked on a previous stream that I've done is, why does your waveform look the way it does? I have the waveform view zoomed in, so that's actually the normal view of how this clip looks. But I'm zoomed way in to just make sure I'm seeing my broadband noise and waveforms, so that way I can line up cycles at the 0 point to make sure there is no clicks in any of my crossfades. So that's why I have it like this. No, it's not distortion. No, it's not a bad audio clip. It's just I have the waveform zoomed in.
That one there. How could you miss it?
So, I'm going to go ahead, start this one into Isotope RX. Pretty quick here, I gotta get dinner going for the kids, but let's hit this one quick.
That one there. How could you miss it?
So the two major things here, the dialogue's very reverberant, and we want to make the character sound outside, and mouth noise. So let's hit through all that. Grab mouth declick, go ahead and render that. I'll get rid of that.
That one there. That one there. That one there. That one there.
Oh man. Okay. I'm using copy and paste here.
That one there. That one there. That one there. That one. That one there.
Command C. Command V.
There. There. How could you?
Mouth noise here. Got rid of one using mouth declick. Command C, Command V to paste.
How could you? How could you? How could you?
So both those didn't go easy using the module. So again, I fall back onto copy and paste.
How could you miss? How could you miss? How could you miss it? How could you?
Again, I'm just using my ears. So I'm going through here and helping and using partially some visual display.
Could you miss? Could you miss? Could you miss it? Could you miss? Could you? Could you miss? Could you miss it?
Get rid of that. That's just annoying me now.
How could you miss? How could you miss it?
There we go.
Did you miss it? Did you miss it? Did you miss it? How could you miss it?
Perfect.
That one there. How could you miss it?
So I got rid of all the mouth noise that I needed to. So now what I get into is getting rid of this reverberation that's in the voice using Dialogue D reverb. I already kind of have my setting already set, but But earlier in the stream, I mentioned that how you do this is get very aggressive using the module. So the point you hear the voice start artifacting, and then back it off. I don't like any de-reverb plugin. I don't care if it's non-isotope or this. I hate all de-reverb plugins. None of them really do anything good to your audio. Most of the time it damages it. So that's why you got to really watch it when you use this and be very subtle. Because I already know my settings and I've worked on this audiobook already quite a bit, I already kind of know that -12 just works for this track. If it doesn't, when I render it, I'll undo it. But I kind of hear it.
That one there. How could you miss it?
So because I need to push this farther to make it sound like the recording's outdoors, because the characters are actually outdoors and not indoors. This was recorded in an apartment. I use spectral repair attenuate in order to help myself out a little bit. And so using attenuate, I already have it kind of set up with the settings I have. And you can use Command 6 to render that processing, and using a time frequency tool, I already know that that selection I had there was part of the room, because you can tell with the tails and how it bleeds and fades out like that.
One there. How could you? One there. How could you? One there. How could you? There. How could you?
Had to get rid of some of that high end.
That one there. How could you miss it? That one there. How could you miss it?
So that actually sounds pretty good right there. I don't actually have to do any more fiddling around with this clip, and I can actually push it back to Pro Tools. And there we go. So that's actually good right there. Wow, I hate to call it quits here, but I gotta go feed my kids. For anyone that is watching currently, I will stream later tonight if any of this helps. Definitely leave a comment in this video or leave a comment on the link that you pulled in from, and let me know if this is helping you at all. But I gotta go make dinner for the kids and family, and I will stream probably around let's say 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. So again, that's 9 p.m. CST. I'll stream again, and you guys can join in and ask all the questions at that time. Anyways, you guys have a good rest of your day, or good evening, or whatever time zone it is. Have a nice one.